The summer's dead, but the books we read will always live on. I'm talking today about this compilation titled Stories of Métis Women, Tales My Kookum Told Me, put together by Bailey Oster and Marilyn Lizzee for the Derville Uproot Press, a smaller independent publishing label that their Uproot sort of subcategory specializes in Indigenous writings exclusively. And the stories compiled in this book also emerge out of meetings of the New Dawn Métis Women's Society, which has several chapters operating out west and in the prairies on Métis territory. And the proceeds from this book go specifically towards their Missing and Murdered Women Fund. So a good thing to support if you have the funds and the inclination. This book is, formally speaking, what the publishing industry likes to call an oral history, which is distinct from, an actual living oral history, but instead a textual compilation of real people's first-person reminiscences about a specific historical period or historical events. And so what you get is a history of the Métis peoples, their struggles, triumphs, and desires, all framed and told through the voices of the strong-willed Métis matriarchs who not just survived it, but witnessed it and lived to tell those stories. The beautiful thing about this text, one of the many beautiful things about it, is that it is structured as a document to be passed on to the coming generations. And that includes, the beautiful, gorgeous cover design featuring beautiful nation-specific Métis floral beadwork, which for me is basically just a cheat code for great cover design. But it's also, interestingly, devoted especially to a Michif translation. And Michif is like the Métis people's specific language, largely based on the Cree language. And so if you're an English language reader, like me, this will be a quick read because most of the page space is actually devoted to that Michif translation of what the various speakers are saying, or in some cases, the original, Michif form of what they said. As such, it's an oral history that preserves the specificity and the richness of the language in which the people ought to be speaking. It's not something you often see because it's a page and space-intensive process, but one that I'd love to see executed more often in books like these. The other thing I learned from this text, as someone from a Mohawk perspective living under the Indian Act, is that Métis history in Canada throughout this tumultuous period of change was very much like, but in many ways distinct from, what we experienced as First Peoples under the Indian Act. The Métis people were also subjected to, forcible removal, the Indian residential school system as well, except unlike those of us under the Indian Act, they did not have the legal protections and rights frameworks that we have, making their existence all the more precarious. And so these are tragic and dark stories, but ones ultimately of pride, survival, and, national history. Worth checking out if, again, you have the funds and the inclination.